Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UKLC. My name is Scoundrel, and joining us for the finals today, well, if you've been watching since the Nordics, you might remember their faces, but if not, I've got Gulborg, I've got Orcs, and I've got Hiprain ready to dive into this best of five. And what an amazing best of five it is going to be. Just to set the scene, I want to show you the semi-finals and seeing how we got to this position, so we can see and take a look at the teams that these guys beat. XL faced up against Envision. Envision, definitely a team with a lot of individual promise, but very rarely able to fulfill that throughout the split. And then we had Fnatic Rising taking on Barrage. Barrage were definitely the surprise of the UKLC, and they had a great run all the way up until those semi-finals, where honestly, both of those series were fairly one-sided. Both of them going 2-0, and that means we land again with the El Clasico of the UK scene, as it has been over the last few years, Fnatic versus XL in those grand finals, best of five. I'm actually going to turn this directly over to Orcs to kick things off, because having been part of the UK scene as an analyst and a player for so long, you've seen this matchup time and time again. Is this the best iteration of these two teams you think we've seen over the last few years? Do you think we're really seeing the culmination of both of these rosters?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think XL certainly. I think Deadly's been a great addition to the roster. I think clearly there's been a lot of behind the scenes work, because I think Sendo and Tax have been on the roster for a while, looking the best they ever had. I think this is definitely the strongest iteration of XL, but Fnatic, they've had some issues, and it's interesting because, you know, they've got recurring parts. They've still got Dan, they've still got Magi Felix, they've still got Xmadi. Bravado has been doing a solid job, and although Pride has been looking a little rough, it's not purely down to him. I feel like altogether this is a weaker Fnatic than we've used to seeing, but also I think it's just a far stronger XL, which is making it look weaker in comparison. Obviously, Fnatic have been consistent the last year. They were first both times in the UK split, spring and summer. They also got to top 4 in EU Masters in both spring and summer EU Masters, so a consistent team that delivered when it mattered. But right now, we haven't really seen that. They did start to turn things up towards the end of the split, beating out Barrage in the semi-finals and also in the regular season towards the end of the season. But it's still a big ask for them to overcome BTXL, because there were very much issues with them. And even facing against Barrage, as much as we had two one-sided semi-finals, Fnatic's was definitely closer. There was definitely that game too, where we felt like Barrage, actually, no, I think it was game one of the games. Okay, I'm getting them mixed up in my head, but one of the games where Barrage actually had a lot of life in them and looked like they could challenge, whereas the XL series was just two absolute stomps. And I think Fnatic, they well could have changed things in the past week. They well could have worked on things, worked on their issues, but I feel like it's still a big ask for them to beat out BTXL, who for the most part just looked entirely consistent. And that's the scary thing, is that this current iteration of XL is no longer a team who are sort of, oh, we have these massive stars on our roster, so thus we must do well. It's a team who are playing very well as a unit and also been delivering consistently, which makes them a scary force.
Sure, and I'll turn it over to Gulborg now as a spectator who's been kind of following the UKLC from the sidelines a little bit, like some of us might have done in the Nordics. What have you seen from these two teams that you've been impressed by? Obviously, we've all seen what XL can do. Is there anything that you've looked at Fnatic for and thought, wow, I really like what they're doing this split?
I don't know if I want to say I really like what they're doing, but I can see that they're always going for a late game style plan where you not necessarily rely on Magic Felix, but just taking an example from the playoff game we saw against Barrage, as Ox mentioned, it did look dire for them in the beginning. They were down in goal, almost losing to Barrage, but it was Magic Felix performance, consistency on DSC, and their way to stabilize in the mid game. I'm not too fond of their early game every now and then. Their weak side sometimes have some issues, but when it finally works for them, it really works, and they play out to their win conditions and they win, funnily enough. On the other side of BTXL, I'm just extremely impressed of how methodical and how by the books they do everything. If you take a look at their average Dragon, it's between in 6 and 7 minutes the first rate will be taken, and it's just Taxa able to maneuver around the map because of all the presence his side laners got, and his mid laner for that matter, has special, extremely good mid laner as well. And I'm excited to see Mashy Felix and their special pop off against each other today.
And actually, I need to bring in Hiprain, because obviously you've also been part of the UK scene for many years now. You've casted this series, I think, countless times. Anything like from your perspective for both of these teams? I personally feel this is the best XL I've ever been witnessing to in terms of UK level presence. Do you think this is finally the time where we can see XL win against Fnatic?
I genuinely think this is where XL reclaim their kind of former glory as the old kind of rulers of the UK scene. Fnatic, you've still got Magic Felix, you've still got XMaddy, the two robots who are programmed to play League of Legends on this roster, and they're still, for me, the two players who are really performing for their team. But I feel there's still just a few too many weaknesses on the current form of Fnatic Rising's roster, where BTXL, it's like they've just shored up any issues they had. You know, Shannon was great, but his playstyle and BTXL's playstyle around him didn't really work, because Orcs hit on this at the beginning of the season, throughout the season a lot, is XL's playstyle is they play towards their bot lane. They play towards getting their AD carry ahead, and Deadly is just a void for resources. He just sucks every gold, every minion he can get into him, and then just fires it back out. And it just suits XL's playstyle. And, you know, like we're also hitting on with the changes with like Sendo and Taxa being on this roster forever at this point. They've been on longer than I've been casting the scene, to be honest. And they're definitely performing probably the best I've ever seen these two perform, especially, well, at least in like the last 2 years anyway. They've been playing fantastically well, and I just think this is an incredibly solid roster, and I worry that I don't know what Fnatic can really do to get ahead. For me, it's like maybe you play around XMaddy, because XMaddy on paper I think can go toe-to-toe with Deadly and maybe even outperform him. But I feel Pride could just be a massive weak spot here, and Sendo in his current state should just smash top lane.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to talk about, really, because there's so many different facets where I would if I were to like put these players individually on a piece of paper, I couldn't draw straws between XMaddy and Deadly in terms of, you know, carry potential. Magic Felix and Special, both incredibly good mid laners. Dan versus Taxa. Most times I'd put Dan above Taxa, but with Taxa's current form, I really think that they are very well matched junglers. I think Bravado has been an excellent addition for Fnatic in the support role, and although Singh has stepped up and has been taking his UK roster really seriously this spurt, you know, I think Bravado's done a great job. I think it is just that top lane with Sendo's form where I think Pride's a bit up and down, Pride's a bit hit or miss, whereas Sendo has just been like constantly good, I think, for XL this split. Dan, what do you think? Where do you think Fnatic has a chance to win? Which player? What kind of play style? What do you actually think they need to do to take a game from XL?
So I think there's two potential possibilities. I think one is that my issue with Pride is he tries to play too aggressive, and he's often left on weak side. So if they actually play around Pride, there is potential that they could find an avenue there, because I think as much as Sendo's been having a great split, it's really hard to play against a 2v1 scenario, potentially 3v1, especially when Dan is very adept at setting that up. And then I think on top of that, a critical factor could be is that BTXL often take fights where they'll look to invest resources, but they'll not over-invest. So they'll pretend they want to contest a dragon. Meanwhile, Sendo split push in the side lane, and the enemy team will bring 5 members down to protect the dragon. And the end result is that BTXL just trade across the map. I think that if you draft heavy engage and you look to capitalize on that, there are timings where BTXL isn't fully grouped, and yet they still try and feign aggression. I think if you find a window there, you could make them opt into these and force fights. I think the only other alternative other than that is a scaling avenue. But really recently, XL's drafts have been very well-rounded, which has sort of denied that being a possibility.
Well, we are into the picks and bans at this point, so we can kind of talk a little bit about what
that's good, because I can't see them just yet. But
that's fine. I'll fire them out for you. So we've had the Syndra, the LeBlanc, the Fresh ban coming out from Fnatic. XL have banned away the Veigar, the Aphelios, and the Senna. And Fnatic first picked the set for Pride, and now it's over to BTXL on what they want to prioritize here.
Ornn's still available, though. Oh, my word.
Yeah, they went for Ornn.
Yeah, so Ornn a little bit weaker on this patch, not as high a priority as it was on 10.4, but still extremely powerful. We saw that in the series earlier today in the Nordics. I think Set has been a big pick for Pride, but also functions as a flex. It can go mid and go support. In theory, it can even go jungle. But this sort of allows BTXL to take that Ornn and then potentially another power pick here. They're toying with the Clist, and they're going to lock it in for Deadly, something that he's shown success on when he did pick it up, but they don't have the Thresh to pair it up with is a critical thing.
And the thing for me is, I think when we have seen Pride perform, it's been on this Ornn. Typically, when he plays the set, for me, this feels like a pick that's been super bait for him, because he's picked it up quite a lot. And honestly, I feel this is one of his worst performing champions we've seen him on across the season. So for the orb to be open for him to then prioritize the set seems a little crazy for me. Where Deadly, he's been when he played that Kalista in the last week of the regular season, he popped the hell off on this guy.
Yeah, but also just the set is also just a takeaway from Sendo. It's been Sendo's most played champion throughout the whole split. And while I do agree with you on the point with Pride not having the hottest performance on this is what they went with. Last time they picked Kalista in playoffs against Envision, Thresh got banned out against them too. They opted in for the Nautilus. So question is, if they're going for the third pick Nautilus here, or they're trying to figure out something against this 6 before we get into the second ban phase.
This is something that Bravado did in his semi-final versus Barrage. He picked a Maokai support, which we can only assume is going into the support role, given that the set has been picked up. I think he picked it with Matty. Oh, it's the
They actually just threw the gauntlet down.
It's the old school. It's the Kalista Taric. This is kind of the bot lane that Kalista became popular again in the meta with. Dan, talk to me about this. If this is going to be the Maokai bot, what do you envision seeing here?
So, I mean, the Maokai makes sense in terms of against the Kalista, you want reliable CC. So it's point and click. You can flash Twisted Advance and you will lock the Kalista down. But ultimately, you're going to have a rough time in the laning phase against Kalista Taric. And Taric ensures that they actually outscale as well in the bot lane. So it's pretty rough. It's going to be difficult to see what Xmadi takes. They could still flex the Ziggs down a bot lane. There's still potential that they even flex the set down there. So a lot of flexibility has been drafted so far for Fnatic. I feel like for BTXL, you mostly know where things are going, although we could still be surprised with the Ornn being moved. But I feel like XL have drafted more strength so far, despite the fact Fnatic have more flexibility.
So we're going to see the bans coming through. Jungle being focused by both XL. Tax's Lee Sin being taken away. Dan's going in the bin. I guess we'll just have to see if they follow up with any more jungle-specific bans. Dan has been kind of... I would say his jungle pool... Dan's jungle pool is not limited, but he has just been stuck on, a lot of times, tank duty, pathing. You know, we always call Dan a pathing jungler, like he will specifically play around his paths, and he always has the same kind of rotations. And Tax has been a bit more play for his lanes. I think Tax's stats, he has one of the worst goal differences at 15, but he always has really high kill participation and always has really high presence in his lanes. So they're taking away some of the junglers that we know that Tax likes to play to do exactly just that.
I think a big thing for Tax as well is not just playing for like necessarily ganks, but he'll play to sort of contribute to the team in terms of when the wave's in a rough position, he'll go there to support. He doesn't actually have to necessarily get a kill, but he sets up his strong laners to find success. And speaking of strong laners, they picked up the Pantheon. Now, this could still be a flex. It could go jungle, it could go mid, it could even go top. So not revealing much in this situation, and it makes it a really good fourth pick here because Fnatic have to round out their composition before seeing really where everything goes from BTXL other than the Kalista and the Taric.
Also, neither of them played Pantheon before too. Yeah, sorry. Neither of them played Pantheon before. Neither Sender or Tax. So this is something they've prepared for this specific finals. They do go with some nice early game with the Rek'Sai too, and you got the nice late game ensured in that 6, and that is just a Fnatic composition coming in with this Varus as well. Now they should know where most of the members of Fnatic are going. Question is, are they sending this Pantheon top or jungle, or mid or jungle now?
Well, that's the decision. I think you're very well aware that it is MagiFelix playing. The Ziggs is kind of what Fnatic do. They generally tend to throw that in mid lane, and we've seen most of our teams do the same. And playing that for Singularity in the same way. Let's see where XL choose to respond. Ziggs is a tough matchup to get any kind of advantages in, but it's going to be special picking up the Zoe here. So Zoe for special in the mid lane. It will be Taxa playing the jungle Pantheon, we think, and then it will be likely going to be Deadly playing the Kalista bot.
Yeah, it could be Forge of the Jungle. I think it's probably going to be the Pantheon in the jungle there, though.
All right, so what are we looking at with these compositions here? I think Dan will break down them a bit further when we get into game, but Gulborg, what do you think of both of them?
Well, I surely do like what we got over XL. You got a bot lane to play for with the Pantheon. You got your weak side up in the top side. Don't think Pride is going to do too much against that, even though he's got a fairly good matchup with the set. It's still two noodles beating down each other, and if Sender do respect the early game coming out for Rek'Sai, he can manage. At the same time, you got really good late game on from the side of Fnatic. If you can stabilize the early game, just like Rek'Sai be an early game presence in the jungle, stabilize your lanes, and just rely on your laners when you get to the late game, that would be a win condition over there. All
right, guys, going to hand it over to Hitbrain and Orcs. And they'll take you through the first game. Fnatic versus XL. Best of 5 for the UKLC champions. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. All right, let's kick this off. It's the El Clasico here between Fnatic and BTXL. Fnatic are still currently trying to fight for their title at the top. With 2 consecutive wins back-to-back here in the UK scene. They had a dominating 2019. And 2020 has been a bit rough for them, but they did at least make it to the finals, and they did make their 3rd ever European Masters. But it's all about pride now. It's all about getting yourself to that top spot and holding your title at the top. Orcs, talk to me. What are we looking for here?
I think it's going to come down to junglers. I think what BTXL did really well was enemy team takes Rek'Sai with so many jungle bans on the table. It felt like there's not many options that would necessarily be able to challenge. And Taxa sort of stretches his pool to take this Pantheon. They take the Zoe in the mid lane as well. And typically what we see BTXL like to do is they'll heavily play around mid lane to facilitate their bot lane. If they can get priority for special, he'll move down to assist in things like dives. And on the back of the Taric and the Pantheon, it's very easy to execute. If you land that stun from the Pantheon, he can be the one to take aggro. He obviously can tank for a while with his Aegis Assault, and then you can follow up the stun from the Taric. By that point, the Ren stacked up enough to take the kill. And ultimately, I think it just sets up very well to play around this bot lane, get Deadly ahead as we typically expect, and then it's going to be so difficult to deal with the composition with this much engage potential. If they get a lead, it's just rough.
Well, we've taken to the Rift for game number 1 of the UKLC Grand Finals. And XL are stepping up, looking to see if they can find cheeky invade. They actually force Xmaddie's flash early.
That's a big hit, honestly. And we are actually going to see the poke Varus coming out here. So Fnatic going for more of a poke-based composition, which I feel like it can make sense. I've seen a lot more of the Varus coming out with the sort of the lethality build, especially with the new items. It's a lot more favorable, and there were some slight buffs to it recently. The end result is you're going to have to play a very sort of controlling game not to get engaged on, because you really are just going to lack the damage to cut through BTXL. You have the likes of Sendo on this Ornn, you have the Pantheon who can soak damage, and the Taric as well, who obviously has that invulnerability. In a team fight, Fnatic are just not going to win on the back of this. So they are playing around poke and control, and they need to be able to utilize that effectively, which it's going to be a tough ask when you think about the engage potential available to BTXL.
All right, well, junglers both starting up on their top side. Dan is actually starting on his Wolves. And then we'll look to start up maybe towards his red. We'll see what he decides to do with this pathing here. His eyes really are on Xmaddie and Bravado, not to let Deadly get miles ahead and overtake the game like he does oh so many times in the regular split.
Pressure being sort of applied from minute 1, which is expectation, and I feel like it's going to be difficult to really pressure and return. We often see Dan looking to play around bot side, and there is potential for that to happen. With the Rek'Sai, you have really good gank paths, but if you overcommit, it can be super scary because Deadly has cleanse, so even if you flash Twisted Advance, there's no guarantee you're going to keep him in place. And the skirmishing power is just so big from Taxa, Deadly, and Kasing on these champions.
Absolutely is. Looking towards the top lane. Pride is actually doing a pretty good job to pull himself ahead in CS and shove Sendo in this lane here. So a wave is crashing into Sendo, so he should be able to try and equalize out this CS deficit on his own. But meanwhile, Dan is looking for a gank onto Deadly here. Does have the tunnel and that flash available. Remember, Xmaddie's the one who's flashless to get the Twisted Advance down. Kasing gets the stun off with the Dazzle. They flash forward and don't find their mark. Ignite, burn, and Deadly just turns that back around. Fantastically played by BTXL.
And that's expectation is that they go for the Taric instead of the Kalista because there's no cleanse available on the Taric. But it's a great flash from Kasing to avoid that knockup. And it looks like Dan's plenty going for a return here. Kasing has to be a little bit careful. But Tax has already come down to assist. And that means Dan can no longer go for these aggressive plays because the Pantheon will just demolish him in a skirmish right now.
Yeah, it looks like junglers are just going to scurry back to their jungles and get some farm. Mid lane, we did see a light scrap between Magic Felix and Special, and Magic Felix now starting to feel the kind of mana problems. He's running a little bit low. Meanwhile, every time we look towards top lane, Sendo is getting bullied around. This is good. It's one of the key things we were hitting on in the pre-game is Pride has not particularly had the strongest split. He's had a good start here in the finals.
And I think the critical thing is that he can play well. We have seen that quite a few times. It's just often his over-aggression on weak side will catch him out. Now, we've seen Dan put a lot of tension bot lane already. Be interesting to see if there ends up being more of that. He is on the top side now, and he's actually put down some wards to sort of assist Pride out so he can play aggressive. And this could be a critical turnaround facilitating him.
Ice has not been seen here.
Yeah, he's
He
gone.
can jump in. Vex Maddie has no flash, remember. They're looking to put that damage into him. He's ignited. The dazzle's enough, and Deadly gets first blood.
And there's the combo. It's really hard to avoid. The stun from Taxa, you follow up with the stun from Kising, and by that point, you've taken enough damage, you're going to go down. And Matty gets punished for that little bit of a mistake level 1. Something we typically saw a lot from XL last year in the summer split was them going for invades level 1, translating that into pressure, and it's worked a treat here.
XL are a team who excel in the early game. This is what we know about them. It's what they've done all season long. And they're sticking to that here. Playing for that early game. Sendo just kind of absorbing the pressure here versus Pride. It's down in CS, but he's quite happy not giving too much over to Pride and allowing and affording Taxa the ability to play around this bot side.
Sing, moving quite aggressively to secure vision around this dragon. And you can see that Special and Tax are pairing up with him as well. So Bravada's going to try contest, but I don't think you're really in a position to do this so well. Priority bot lane means that Xmaddy's able to move on top of that, but even so, this Pantheon, a little bit scary at this point. And the Maokai, typically you expect a Maokai to be pretty bulky. He's quite squishy. I actually see an engage coming top.
Yeah, they're looking to go straight in for the dive. Sendo, very, very low. However, now they're pinging out to see if they can find Dan. Taxa does have that stun. Dan's able to tunnel away. His vision's going to get cleared out here by BTXL. Sendo has to be careful. He does have Call of the Forge God. Pride already burned that ultimate from that prior engage. And now Sendo looking to see if he can turn it back around onto Pride. But that Haymaker's going to do a lot of damage. He flashes to reposition. Not going to be quite enough as the Call of the Forge God gets used. And Sendo is looking to chase with the Bellows Breath. Will cook him alive. And Sendo secures the kill.
And it's a misplay. Pride flashed, but he didn't reposition the Haymaker right. He didn't land the true damage onto him, and he ends up going down. Sendo winning the 1v1, and this is the thing I'm talking about. He's on weak side. He's in a 1v1 scenario. All he has to do is not die, apply some pressure, and he ends up going way too far, and he gets punished for it. Giving a kill to the Ornn this early is not how you want this lane to go, especially as you're going the Blade of the Rune King we've seen popularized recently. When you go that build, you need to be dominating the 1v1 because you're just so much weaker in team fights.
Yeah, Sendo teleported back to the lane. Now, key thing is Pride didn't teleport. He's holding that summoner spell. XL are going to move their way over to this dragon, and it's pretty hard to steal that away when you've got the jungler and a Kalista there with the Rend to execute. So Deadly should be able to pick this one up for his team. There it is.
I feel like for the current state of Rend, I actually feel like dragons are still a fairly easy steal. I feel like it's the timing obviously can be synced, but you can't really stack up enough spears to do that much damage to a dragon since they nerfed it. Obviously, the big thing that shoved Kalista out the meta, or one of them. But I think ultimately on the Baron, it's much more significant. But they weren't going to contest that one regardless. Mighty and Bravado really scared to push up. Mighty does have his flash again, but there's so much vulnerability going up against Deadly. Now he has the Fate's Call. He can just throw Kasing in to set the play up.
Yeah, he just flashes away to make sure he doesn't get caught out there. Taxa was waiting in the wings. Cleanse available to Deadly, but he decides just to play safe, respectful, and gets his way out.
Yeah, I think the critical thing is even if you cleanse, the follow-up is still going to be there, the knock-ups, and that could be enough just to take you down.
Now Sendo feeling pretty comfortable here versus Pride, dodging away on that Haymaker. Got himself the Bramble Vest, the Balmy Cinder. It's kind of scary to deal with right now, and Pride's just going to have to step away.
Seen slight advantages in the mid lane and the AD carry role. MagiFelix not having as easy a laning phase against Special on the Zoe. And the Ziggs is going to scale extremely well, but still a little bit rough in the early phases. And it has kind of facilitated XL because they know they have that mid priority to work with to play around. I feel like once MagiFelix gets Ludens, he's able to just blow up the waves. He doesn't really have to be as concerned. But for now, there's always this pressure that the Zoe coming for the Fog of War, as you can see on your screen, could just apply that huge burst potential. And in some of those situations, cleanse may not save you, or even if it does, you're chunked out enough that you have to just reset, and it gives over the pressure the other side. Now, we've seen a swap come in with the dragon down. There's no reason to stay bot side, so XL have moved numbers towards his Herald to secure it. Deadly's a little bit late. He's actually alone by himself moving up mid, but nothing's really going to come in terms of a punish for him. So they end up being able to secure that Herald.
And in fact, Deadly's just going to make his way back down towards that bot lane. He's going the long way, going to take himself the wolves on the run down. So Xmatty should be able to pick a plate or two up here in return. You can see that Bravado and Dan are actually setting up a Death Brush to see if they can get something onto Deadly. As Dan's going to come forward, the Mega Inferno Bomb's been using all of that CC, and Deadly buying some space, buying some time. He gets healed up. He's dodging and diving, but Magic Felix will take him down. And now Special's looking for Dan. He's unable to get so far, but in goes the Chain to Corruption by Xmatty, and in comes the team fight for Fnatic Rising. A Haymaker, almost enough to secure the kill. On to the top laner as the bubble lands. I don't think it's going to be quite enough as Sleep onto Magic Felix will not be followed up, and now Pride just going to chase Special off. Fnatic Rising just catching XL out in their jungle.
And yeah, it still wasn't a super favorable trade. In fact, I believe because Maokai went down, Rek'Sai went down, it was still essentially a pretty even trade between the two teams. So I don't think XL is super disappointed about that one. And Fnatic had to burn their TP advantage. So all things considered, they still went pretty good in terms of that skirmish.
Yeah, and Senna just gets so much free time afforded to him in the top lane. Means they can afford to use that Rift Herald elsewhere than top lane now, because Sendo should just be able to take this turret out relatively easily as a Special has got a free flash to use, so he's able to get out and actually get close enough to still continue to get his blue buff.
And I think this is just showing the sort of thing that XL can do. They take a fight that's a 4v5 and they win. I mean, it's a 2-for-2 in the fight, but you should not be going 2-for-2 in a 4v5. And then you see Sendo get 4 plates in the top lane. This is XL doing something that could be punished, but they're getting away with it. They're just outplaying the enemy team. Their skirmishing was better. And despite the fact that it was Fnatic who opted into that fight, they lose out across the map massively and are now 1,400 gold down.
There was a plate picked up in response there by Pride, but that is just it. Rift Herald sitting in Tax's pocket. He's still got a little bit of time to go before that time's out. So we'll see where he decides to throw that down. Ideally, probably to try and find some more plates, maybe onto someone like Deadly. There's a bit of a scrap breaking out mid lane. Special takes some serious damage. The Mega Inferno Bomb, almost enough to kill him. Able to skip and jump away, though.
Just chunk him out and force him off. So now Magic Felix gets him alone time, potentially to get a plate for himself. Can easily pick that first plate up on the Ziggs with a short fuse, but gotta be concerned about where Taxa wants to sort of apply the pressures. Ult's coming up fairly soon, and he has that Rift Herald available. Dan's been leaning a lot towards this bot lane, trying to set something up, but Maddie unable to find the Chains of Corruption. He just used that recently, and it was essentially dodged away from. So you can tell Fnatic are trying to make this pressure happen around the bot lane, but they're just not able to find it yet.
And Dragon is going to get picked up by Fnatic, so they answer out 1 Dragon apiece. No response here from XL. It's only a Cloud Race. They're willing to give that up, and we're on to an Infernal Soul. So solid for Fnatic Rising with this poke comp. As they're looking to see if they can find something on the Pride. They get the knockup. Remember that all the walls have disappeared, so XL are actually quicker to move around. Try and find that pick, and that forces Pride to flash. Special's going to steal away the blue buff as well from Magic Felix. Really nice into the Ziggs to deny him that mana.
And you can see, Taxa's only just caught up to level 7, Dan's level 8. He's down in levels, down in farm a bit. But he's doing this to set up his lanes. He makes that play where he goes and assists to go assist with the aggression. He's putting the Herald down mid to get some plates for Special. Very much a jungler who looks to play around the lanes. That's why I think the Pantheon's a good pick for him, because it's a sort of pick where you don't take it to scale, you take it to force, you take it to look for skirmishes and ganks. And right now, Sendo, he just takes the tower with Pride there.
Yeah, he just completely picks him up, and now Pride are going to jump onto him, uses that showstopper. Haymaker's available, going to put out the brittles, going to flash away from the Haymaker momentarily as Pride continues to chase him down. Can Sendo turn it around? No, he cannot. As there was a scrap breaking out in the jungle as well, but nobody dies down there.
A little bit greedy overall from Sendo, and that's a power of the Blade Rune King build. You can't actually cut through the Ornn if he oversteps. So costs his flash, costs his life, but he does get 610 gold from taking down that first tower. So still up in terms of that trade. Definitely not a great thing to be given over kills to that set. And now you see mid tower going down as well for XL. Still ahead by about 3,000. But MagiFelix just picked up that Ludens. You see the Ghost Blade for Xmadi, so one item spike's coming in. I think the significant thing with Ziggs having a Ludens is that his wave clear is just so potent. Very hard to shove in from here on out. But the critical thing is having already lost that mid lane tower, that's normally the thing you're trying to defend. Playing a wave clear mage like Ziggs, like Nazir, like a Xerath. You want to keep that tier 1 tower alive as long as possible. And he gets the Ludens just as it goes down, so unfortunate timing.
So they're looking for a dive here onto Sendo. Nature's Grasp is going to get used. They've got the knockups, they've got the damage, and the Mega Inferno Bomb. Xmadi will pick that kill up. And that'll be a 1 for 1 in a 1 versus 4.
Bravado?
He had flash, by the way.
Did you so what happened is Dan had tower aggro and flashed out, and then Bravado walked back in and didn't realize that the minion wave was no longer there, and just like walked into tower.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. And this just means that XL are now going to get another turret. XL just net gaining there. Like, that's a fine trade. 4 people in a 1-for-1 trade. And now they can move over and get this Rift Herald because they've got priority in this top side of the map.
Yeah, and it's easy for them to do, and it feels like Fnatic go for these plays and they end up being a little bit messy. Like, it's a 1-for-1. It's not a great situation. Yes, you get the tower, but the counterpoint is that BTXL get a tier 2 tower and they get the Herald, and they still traded 1-for-1 in that dive under the tower. And it just feels like everything Fnatic does goes off with like a couple of mistakes. But you see if you look bot side, Dan going aggressive here.
Yeah, he's going to learn the knock up here. Dan's doing a fair amount of damage, but Sendo's looking to turn it around. The Mega Inferno Bomb connects, and Sendo, 1 versus 2, just comes up huge there. Remember, Xmadi's got this lethality build, so he doesn't really do too much to the Ornn.
Yeah, this is a Sunfire Cape Ornn who's super tanky right now. They just don't have the damage to cut through him.
They used Xmadi's exhaust there.
And this is again, this is Fnatic again trying to find something, and it just doesn't work. It's like every play they go for is a little bit scuffed. There was that fight they went for in XL's blue side jungle where it ended up being a 2-for-2 and they lost a ton of plates. There was the dive where they end up losing on the other side of the map. And then here they go for a pick on a Sendo and they just don't even have the damage and they end up burning more summoners. It just feels like every play Fnatic go for kind of just doesn't work out, but they are now looking here for Sendo.
Yeah, they do get the knock up there. Sendo's going to try and survive momentarily. He does finally go down. Taxa puts up the dome, and they do just get the damage out. That's going to be the trade back. Deadly has to jump away. So 2 for none in favor of Fnatic Rising. Health bars are a little low, though. Doesn't mean they're going to have to step away. There's Rift Herald still available. But Taxa's dead, so we can't place it yet.
Critical thing is Taxa has ult and he's up soon. TP available for Sendo, so they will be here in time to contest this dragon if they want to. And a lot of key ultimates were used there. Dan's being down means he can't reset aggro. Xmadi's Chains of Corruption is a huge part of his power. Not just the CC, but also applying those blight stacks. So a big hit, and I think XL can just come in. The TP's already been called. Taxa has his ultimate. I think they're going to contest this dragon, and you can see Dan just has to tunnel away. They can't fight this one.
Yeah, they don't want to go for that. The Grand Star falls up, which means Tax is able to join in nice and quick. And before you know it, you got that Pantheon on top of you. Sendo going to start up this one as that's almost the assassination out by Special, but blocked away there by MagiFelix. Sendo calls out the call of the Forge God and looks for the knock-up. Does actually connect it there as the bubble. Not going to find its mark. This is the Infernal Drake picked up for XL. 18 minutes on the clock. They've got the gold lead. They've got control of the map. Meanwhile, top lane Pride is going to push into this turret.
Should be able to take this one down pretty quickly. Set at the best of times is really good at taking towers, but with the Blade Rune King as well, at the worst of times, I mean. But with the Blade Rune King as well, can easily cut through that. And the trade will be a tower in the bot side picked up by XL. Using that Herald as well, they'll likely look just to get a second charge in here. Not sure if they'll stay. They're actually moving Special down, so they can potentially stay and get this tower in this situation.
Yeah, Deadly's pretty comfortable right now. He's pretty strong. The minion wave will die out. Special looks for a bit of hope.
Damage onto the mouth guy.
This is going to be the tower going down. I mean, the mouth guy is a bramble vest. He has no magic resist.
I mean, he has health from the catalyst, but even so, he's just getting minced. And you can see mid lane, bot lane, 40 CS, 30, 40 CS discrepancy between them. You know, a 2,700 gold lead. It's not the biggest we've seen, but I think with how control and XL is, it's pretty suffocating. They've taken 5 towers already. And this tier 2 mid is going to be a little bit difficult because you have the wave clear from MagiFelix. But even so, it's not impossible. You've got a huge spike coming in for Deadly with the Blazing King and the Runans. Special actually just picking up the Proto Belt on the Zoe. So wanting to use that to sort of extend the range on his paddle star to get even more burst. Bit of an interesting one, but if you get, I think that's basically the condition for Special, is find those big one-shots on a critical members. And there's really no one on the side of Fnatic who can actually withstand the power of the Zoe right now. Maddie has picked up the Edge of Night to give him a bit of safety, but he gets comboed, he's still going to get hit a lot. And you can see Bravado just gets chunked.
They just cut through him like he's nothing. Baron Nashor will now finally take to the Rift, and we'll have to see whether or not XL are feeling comfortable enough to go for that early. They got the Kalista with the Blade of the Ruined King. They've got Bravado just getting chunked out mid lane.
And I mean, Mai just landed a piercing arrow on Deadly, and it just really didn't do that much damage at all. And then he just heals it up with the Blade of the Ruined King. Sendo approaching that level 13 point where he gets the own upgrades for himself. He's going to be super hard to deal with then. And I feel like at that point, I just don't see Fnatic ever killing Sendo easily.
Pride is doing his best to try and crack open this turret. He's just going to ignore Sendo momentarily. Takes a fair amount of damage in response, but now the Face Breaker and the Haymaker stacking up. Sendo actually going to trade out equally there. So Pride, I have my criticisms, but currently he is probably the most impressive member in this game for Fnatic Rising.
I will engage coming in.
Might have to hold that to get the stun off. They've got the Cosmic Radiance as well. Bravado will go down. He throws out of Nature's Grasp. They use the Grand Starfall and everything. As in comes Pride onto that flank. He's going to get slowed down. They look for the stun. The Mega Inferno Bomb lands onto Sing, but he's healed up for the moment. The Redemption is going to get used. The Call of the Forge God thrown down as well here as they put Dan to sleep, and Special takes him down. A knockup lands onto X-Maddie. He's getting chunked and taken down. Sendo finds the kill. And XL just mop up Fnatic Rising.
Fnatic looked for the re-engage there, and it ends up failing the mass. Oh, I think MagiFelix is dead as well.
Oh, no. Special just takes him out. Baron Nashor now getting started up here by XL. Delayed recall times as well. Respawn times, sorry, for Fnatic Rising. No teleports available for Pride. This Baron will just melt to XL. And game 1 of this series starting off very, very heavily in favor of XL.
Absolutely, the Baron picked up already. We saw a small gold lead with a lot of control in favor of BHXL, and it has just exploded after those skirmishes. It really felt like Fnatic were taking fights they didn't want to necessarily, feeling like they were forced to opt into them, and it just backfired so much. And now with the Orn items start to come in, Sendo's obviously picked up his own. He has one to pass off. I think he's just upgraded the Blade of the Ruined King for Deadly. Yeah, he has. So we're at a position now where that gold lead is going to be expanded even more by the ornaments. Dragon's coming up soon, and XL can just secure that one, put themselves on sole point. I just really don't see how Fnatic contest this, unless they can land some huge poke, but they're just not doing the damage to afford that. MagiFelix hasn't got the Leandries yet, and X-Maddie, when he lands a piercing arrow, it just really isn't doing that much.
No, his build is...
He just hit Special with a piercing arrow, and look at his health.
Yeah, now Special's actually the one looking to turn it around. Call of the Forge God's going to get used here by Sendo. Nature's Grasp won't stop him from getting the interrupt off. The teleport's getting used, and Fnatic looking to collapse here. Taxa looks to see if he can just turn it back onto Pride. In goes the Dazzle. In goes the Showstopper. The big team fights the bombs and land. That's one already picked up for Fnatic, and now it's just so scrappy. Deadly is kiting away on the back line, and he's unstoppable. No one can take him down. Deadly finds a double kill, uses the ultimate. Deadly gets a triple, and Fnatic are just destroyed in a whitewash by BTXL.
Fnatic thought they could take that fight, but ultimately unable to find the success. Deadly going straight on the back line on the Kalista, using the Runans to apply rend to both MagiFelix and Xmati. Just unstoppable in that situation. I think the goal lead is showing, but also BTXL's strength in these skirmishes, and Fnatic just looking like they're getting crushed right now.
It's just falling apart at the seams for Fnatic. They lose 1 inhibitor tower, they lose 2 inhibitor towers. Not going to lose those inhibs yet. The Grand Starfall is going to get used, and it's time to move to this Infernal Drake. 1 off soul. XL are just so comfortably ahead of Fnatic now.
Absolutely are, and it's a worrying omen with this much of a discrepancy. You did see some momentum in that fight when Pride found the big flank with the showstopper, got the AoE damage from Ziggs as well, but there just wasn't enough damage there. And now you're looking at the items coming in. Sendo's working towards a locket. You've got the Bloodthirster from Deadly and a stopwatch, meaning he's going to be so difficult to kill. It's just that the goal discrepancy means even if you find those favorable scenarios, it just isn't enough to turn the fight in your favor. Rabadon's just picked up a special.
To get upgraded. Nice,
he thought he was doing damage before. Even more significant. Sendo not yet level 15, but should be able to upgrade it once he does get that level. For now, though, you can see Special heading to the bot side. He's going to catch that wave and just shove it in. Allow it a slow push and just facilitate this top side control for XL.
Still not got the Baron. It's just timed out, actually. I was about to say they still got it, but it actually has timed out now. But a lot gained there with that Baron Nashor.
Absolutely. To break the base, both mid and bot, definitely puts a vulnerability. And I think they just want to apply pressure with the lanes, get control. If a fight starts, if a pick opens up, they will pounce on it. But they have this Baron they can potentially work towards. They have the Infernal Soul they can work towards as well. XL in a really comfortable spot. You see the locket coming in for Kasang. He's got the redemption as well. On top of his ult, it just means it's so difficult to kill Deadly. It really is extremely hard. And they're going to move their numbers down towards bot lane, pick up this inhibitor. There's no response to come in from Fnatic. They just can't do anything.
There's nothing they can do. That will be the end of the bot lane inhibitor. Baron Nashor spawns up in 2 minutes time as well, so this actually affords them a fair amount of room. So the lane's going to be pushing in for them. It looks like now it's over to the mid lane inhibitor here for BTXL. Death Crown not finished up yet. He's going to upgrade it now for Special.
At level 15. Recently upgrades that, so even more AP for the Zoe. Currently sitting at 540. Got 3 points in the ultimate, so a really short cooldown right now. And it just feels super difficult. Deadly's cleanse coming up soon, so they can look to play around that. And it just makes it, even if you manage to pick someone off BTXL, it's not going to be Deadly, and Deadly can clean up the fights. I just feel like with the Bloodthirster, the stopwatch, and the peel from Kasang, you're just never going to kill him.
Deadly is now on to this tower, just cutting through that like it's butter. Bravado, MagiFelix, and Xmati all trying to answer him out. As Sendo just dodging away. Some of the damage getting thrown down as the Call of the Forge God's being used here onto Pride. A little optimistic, I would say, from XL, but they are going to get some time afforded to them. And that was just a more sparkles, a more glitter auto attack onto the inhibitor. That just chunks that.
Heavy AP means doing more damage to objectives. Now they're looking for Sendo.
Looks like they're not going to be able to find it. And Deadly almost gets that inhibitor down. Does kind of find it. Uses himself the ultimate. The Cosmic Radiance has been used to keep him alive. Sendo also immortal. And they find themselves an easy kill onto Bravado. The tree has just not worked out. The Lumberjack has shown up for BTXL and they cut him down for a 5th time. XL going to head back to base, spend their gold, and then look for Baron.
And just Fnatic unable to find a window. They actually went for the Chains of Corruption on Sendo, but he used the Bellows Breath to mitigate the CC. I mean, it just really feels a bit desperate at this moment. Now, BTXL are going to start the Baron. With the Kalista here, they're able to stack up the Rend. Actually, because it's only Kalista and Taxa doing damage, there'll be a lot of Rend stacks, but they could potentially look to turn this. Fnatic do want to try and stop them, so they will back away. They were taking a fair bit of damage. And I think the call's being made to just reset and spend. A lot of gold sitting in their pockets right now. Gold lead though, 9,000 in favor of XL, and that dragon spawning soon, that Infernal Soul.
Deadly just bought a GA flat.
I mean, he's just like, if he wasn't unkillable before,
stopwatch, to be fair.
If he wasn't unkillable before, he's even more unkillable now. We see the locket for Sendo, so a ton of AoE shielding to make things more difficult. It's just getting worse and worse.
Double locket.
For Fnatic.
He is actually unkillable. Deadly would have to seriously miss position to die here, I think, at this point.
Now his cleanse is down.
He's literally 30 CS off Flame Horizon X Matty right now.
Now his cleanse is down, so if they manage to CC chain him, maybe, but it's not a good win condition.
Flashes, uses that Call of the Forge God. They're going to put that damage in, and that's going to be an easy kill for Deadly. Grand Starfall's been used as well, and Taxa barreling towards X-Matty. X-Matty still has the Veil, though, so he's going to be pretty hard to pin down. Imagine Felix just poking some damage left, right, and center. Oh my lord!
So we think
him down, and actually, it's just scrapping everywhere. XL taking out Fnatic on their fountain right now. Deadly is just doing so much work. Turret number 1's going to go down. Turret number 2 pretty low as well. Bravado will survive momentarily. A special takes out X-Matty on the fountain. Cosmic Radiance gets used. This is XL closing the game out in style now. They do get something onto Sendo, but he's able to Searing charge away. 30 minutes on the clock. And the first game of this best of 5 goes over to BTXL.
that was pretty dominant. I mean, it's what we expected, but even so, that was just super one-sided in favor of XL. A lot of questions, you know, a lot of questions. I think starting with draft, not too convinced by the Maokai pick. I think the Pope composition with the Ziggs and the Varus didn't really work. You just couldn't deal with the bot lane pressure. Mid lane lost in terms of priority. Top lane was the only lane where you really had an advantage, and Pride ended up getting solo killed. It's just rough across the board. I think Fnatic, not sure exactly what the game plan was here, but I think they need a reshuffle, come in with a new plan for game 2, because if they continue like this, then I think XL may have the undefeated season.
It's literally, they are 2 wins away from going undefeated and taking the title out of Fnatic's hands. It's really, really rough for Fnatic coming into this. They've got to pull something out of the bag going into game 2, because this draft wasn't enough.